Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to today's press briefing on the Refugio beach oil spill cleanup. My name is Lieutenant Anna Dixon. I'm with the U.S. Coast Guard. I'm the Public Information Officer for this response. Our speakers today will be Captain Charlene Downey, U.S. Coast Guard Federal On-Scene Coordinator, and that's spelled Charlene, C-H-A-R-L-E-N-E, Downey, D-O-W-N-E-Y. Yvonne Adasi with the California Department of Fish and Wildlife, Assistant Deputy Director, and that's spelled Yvonne, Y-V-O-N-N-E, Adasi, A-D-D-A-S-S-I. Michael Dyer, County of Santa Barbara Office of Emergency Management, and that is Michael, M-I-C-H-A-E-L, Dyer, D-Y-E-R. Officer Santos Cabral, California Department of Fish and Wildlife, State On-Scene Coordinator, and that is spelled S-A-N-T-O-S, Santos, Cabral, C-A-B-R-A-L. Mr. Rick McMichael, Senior Director of Operations for Plains All-American Pipeline, and that is Rick McMichael, M-C-M-I-C-H-A-E-L. And finally, Patrick Hodgin, Senior Director of Safety for Plains All-American Pipeline, and that's Patrick, P-A-T-R-I-C-K, Hodgin, H-O-D-G-I-N. We'll begin today's press brief with some brief statements from each of the representatives of the Unified Command. Then we'll open the floor to your questions. Because of ongoing operations, we'll be only available for about 30 minutes. To allow time for everyone to ask a question, please limit yourself to one question and one follow-up question. Afterwards, we'll have time for additional follow-up questions. And following the briefing, the Joint Information Center will be available to take any follow-up questions that you may have. Thank you.
Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. Tomorrow marks 1 week since the spill began, bringing hundreds of first responders here from across the country. I want to thank all of the responders and contractors who are working tirelessly toward the common goal of rescuing wildlife and cleaning oil from the shores and waters of the coast. I want to especially thank the community and Santa Barbara County for your patience as we continue the cleanup efforts. And I also want to thank you for your tremendous hospitality, for your diligence in reporting oiled wildlife, and for all of your help in accomplishing this goal together. The safety of our first responders and the public remains a top priority. The Unified Command remains dedicated to not using dispersants during this response. Response crews are using techniques such as herding, which uses fire hoses and water streams to redirect oil away from the environmentally sensitive areas. In addition to herding, thousands of feet of hard and absorbent boom have been deployed to contain and divert oil away from environmentally sensitive areas so it can be corralled and recovered from the water. The Unified Command is also continuing to conduct overflights of the area, and we are constantly evaluating our strategies to combat this spill and mitigate the impacts. We continue to recover oil from the shore with our SCAT teams, and wildlife experts are continuing their mission of cleaning oil from impacted animals. We have more than 800 people working together to approach this response from the land, sea, and air. 5 shoreline assessment teams are walking the beaches to find affected areas to send crews to rescue wildlife and remove oil. Wildlife experts are walking the beaches, actively searching for any affected wildlife. Our wildlife centers continue to operate and are ready to receive any impacted animals. Again, we thank you for your support, and we will continue to keep everyone informed of our response efforts. Thank you.
Good afternoon. I'm Yvonne Adasi, Deputy Administrator at the Office of Spill Prevention and Response. Yesterday, I had talked with some folks about ongoing cleanup operations, how we expect things to unfold, and folks wanted some more information on where we might be with that. So I want you to know that we have a shoreline treatment recommendation from our SCAT teams, shoreline cleanup assessment teams, for heavy oil, which we often call a coat, that has been adhering to immovable large boulders embedded in the beaches within the tidal zone. The oil coat on these boulders have been removed manually and can be removed manually. This is the treatment recommendation, with flathead square shovels to scrape oil from the surface of the boulders. Sorbent pads will be placed around the rock prior to scraping to catch any of the oil from the surface of the boulder. Most of the oil is removed. Once most of the oil is removed in that way, wire brushes can be used to scrape off the remaining of the oil. I want everyone to understand we are not removing mussels from these boulders. Kelp, any kind of barnacles, anything will not be removed. This is just the removal of the gross oil. All this will be placed in buckets for quantification and obviously disposed of accordingly. Depending on the location, we will have qualified biologists and monitors as well as cultural folks to make sure that it's being done in an appropriate manner. Thank you.
Good afternoon. I'm Michael Dyer on behalf of the Santa Barbara County Office of Emergency Management. I'd like to recognize more than 85 agencies and 4,000 personnel who have been involved in this coordinated response to the Refugio incident. Over 100 county personnel have been and remain engaged around the clock in this ongoing operation. Coordination and support of the Unified Command, the Joint Information Center, and the county's Emergency Operations Center. I'd like to thank and recognize the Unified Command participants for their collegiality and willingness to hear our local concerns and requests. I'd like to acknowledge our elected officials for their ongoing support of county personnel and its local volunteers. And while I'm doing that, to recognize 1st District Supervisor Salud Carbajal, who's in the audience, and he's been very supportive. Also, numerous county departments continue to support the incident response. In addition to the ones here before you, I'd like to thank a few others. The County Executive Office, under County Executive Officer Mona Miyasato. Public Works providing signage for caution and road closures. Fire and Sheriff for providing ongoing operational and logistical support, including security, cleanup, medical, and coordinating feeding operations for thousands of workers engaged in this effort. Planning and Development for helping to monitor restoration of the release site. Public Health for conducting testing and monitoring of local beaches. Auditor Controller to ensure accurate and timely financial recording. General Services for providing facilities, IT, and contractual support. And finally, the cities of Santa Barbara, UCSB, Goleta, and other surrounding jurisdictions are assisting in this mass joint effort and offering their support. Thank you.
Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. My name is Santos Cabral. I'm the State On-Scene Coordinator for the California Department of Fish and Wildlife. The California Department of Fish and Wildlife, as a member of the Unified Command, continues to provide for the protection and oversight of the cleanup of California's natural resources. I can report that the fishery closure remains in effect for public safety. It applies to all on-water and shoreline fishing and shellfish collection in the closure area. The Memorial Day weekend has brought many visitors to the shorelines. We've received increasing reports of dogs off leashes chasing wildlife back into the water. So please, for the protection of the wildlife already under stress in this event, keep the dogs on leashes. Also continue to report any sightings of oiled animals to the Oiled Wildlife Care Network at the following number: 1-877-823-6926. The state of California continues to register volunteers for training deployment. Training is occurring today as we speak, and another is scheduled for Thursday. We have coordinated beach cleanup activity for Wednesday and also on the weekend. The training is required and mandated in order to participate in this beach cleanup. Lastly, I have some wildlife totals as of last night, 5/24. Oiled birds captured, 17. Oiled mammals captured, 10. Dead birds on arrival, 9. Dead mammals on arrival, 6. Thank you very much.
Good afternoon. I'm Rick McMichael, Senior Director of Operations for Plains All-American Pipeline. We continue to make progress in the work zones in the recovery area. For the purposes of today's discussion, I've broken the recovery area into 5 zones: the release site, the culvert area, the bluffs, the beach, and the water. At the release site, the work has been focused on removing oiled soil and preparing for the eventual extraction of the affected segment of pipe. We have made progress on removing the soil adjacent to the immediate area of the release, having moved more than 2,600 cubic yards of soil. This soil has been placed in approximately 170 bins, which will be moved and temporarily stored in a secure off-site facility for further evaluation. PHMSA and the United Command are reviewing the work plan to remove the affected portion of pipe, and we anticipate starting this process in the next 24 hours. In the culvert zone, we have completed an initial cleaning of substantially all of the oil from the culvert from the release site to the southbound lanes of Highway 101, and will continue cleanup efforts as needed. In the bluff zone, the area west of southbound 101, we're finalizing a plan to begin cleanup work. On the beach, workers continue to manually clean oil from the cliff face and large stationary rocks, as well as to collect oil seaweed and kelp from the shoreline. On the water, we have 16 vessels in operation, and an absorbent boom is being utilized to capture any remaining sheen. Before I close, I want to remind the community about our claims line. For those who have questions or who would like to submit a claim, they can call 866-753-3619. We sincerely regret the impact this incident has had on the community and pledge to remain aggressively engaged in the recovery efforts until the job is done. Thank you.
Good afternoon, everyone, and thank you again for being here. Today, I would like to take time to address the efforts we are taking to manage the safety of our pipelines. We do conduct a rigorous integrity management program that has been designed along federal guidelines and is regularly reviewed by the United States Department of Transportation of Pipeline Hazardous Materials Safety Administration, commonly called PHMSA. This program focuses on ensuring the pipelines are operated along these guidelines with industry standards, are constantly monitored, regularly inspected, and repaired as required. To inspect our pipelines, we use third-party experts who run inline inspection tools, commonly known as spark pigs, throughout the pipeline system. These tools return a great deal of data, as you can imagine. They typically require months to be turned into actionable findings. In many cases, we conduct confirmation digs, which correlate the information from the inline inspection tool with the condition of the pipe below the surface. In the industry, we commonly refer to this proactive maintenance activity as pigs and digs. As mentioned in previous news conferences, we ran an inline inspection tool on line 901 in early May of this year. The preliminary analysis of this tool run, the third-party expert performed an initial review from the extensive amount of data gathered by this tool. One of the purposes of this preliminary review is to determine whether there are any indications worthy of further analysis, calibration, or actual investigation. Although the final report is still being developed for this inspection, we have requested and we have received an expedited preliminary report to determine if there are any areas that need investigating prior to emptying any remaining oil that's left in the pipeline system. Based on this rough cut of data and in accordance with our company's integrity management plan, we have identified 4 areas along the 901 line that we plan to investigate as part of our customary procedures. Although you may see workers elsewhere along the pipeline, that work is not related to this particular incident. And again, I want to emphasize that this work is unrelated to the current efforts to excavate and repair the pipeline at the release location and is part of our continuous preventive maintenance program as part of our integrity management process. We will be working with third-party experts to complete the full analysis of this line, and we'll continue to work closely with the federal agencies in addressing those results. And in conclusion, today is Memorial Day, and we want to thank everybody, the visitors, the volunteers, the local and state agencies who have been tremendous in this response, and again, the men and women of blue who on this particular day has taken them away from their families. Thank you very much.
We'll now take any questions.
How long do you expect this to take and clean up, and who's going to pay for it?
If I heard it correctly, how long will it take and who's going to pay for it? It's going to take as long as necessary to clean everything up and return it back to the way it was. As far as the expenses, Plains All-American Pipeline is responsible for all expenses related to this cleanup.
Sir, could you talk a little bit more about those 4 locations you've identified? What is the concern about them? What could happen there, and what will you do?
Again, we got some preliminary information that came back. We go about just like any other maintenance prevention program we have. We will go around and to the pipeline. We'll do what's called a confirmation dig and determine if the information in the inspection tool matches up to that exact location. We'll uncover it to determine if it needs any maintenance work. If not, we will cover it back up and go on to the next one.
Well, what is the information? Potentially a weak spot in the wall, or what kinds of things?
We don't know at this point. That's the whole point of the confirmation dig, is to look at the location.
I mean, what does the pig tell you that makes you look there?
So the inspection tool can tell you many different things. It could be maybe we need to look at the pipe thickness. Maybe we need to look at if there's a potential dent or something along those lines. Again, without the information in front of me, but they have identified 4 areas. We will go out and do confirmation digs, and once we have that information, we'll work with our integrity management program to find corrective actions if necessary.
When do you expect the beaches to be reopened to the public? Is there a hard date, soft date? What do you think?
Eric Jellstrom, California State Parks. I'm the sector superintendent in charge of the Santa Barbara sector. At this time, all the Refugio and El Capitan are closed until June 4th. We're going to continue to monitor the cleanup activities in terms of the impact to the park, and we won't be reopening until the park's deemed safe and all the equipment's out of the park. I'm sure if you've been down there, you've seen that the park's full of trucks and response vehicles, and we're focusing on protecting the natural and cultural resources. And until we can make the park safe for our visitors, we're going to continue to extend those closures if needed.
So it's a soft date. You're hoping to have everything done by the 4th. If not, then...
Yeah, we're basically reassessing on a weekly basis and extending, so that's where we're at right now.
How do you spell your last name?
Sorry, H-J-E-L-S-T-R-O-M.
The gentleman in the maroon shirt in the back. Yes, you, sir. Yes, yes.
In 1969, the city of Santa Barbara saw fit to use backhoes to remove bedrock along the shoreline. Can we be assured the heaviest equipment is a shovel?
So I'll just repeat the question. In 69, the boulders and cobbles and things like that were removed by backhoes, and can we guarantee that that will not happen again? What I can say is that this Unified Command, as well as the Department of Fish and Wildlife, which is the trustee agency for resources of the state, will not do anything to the shorelines that will make it worse than the event. So when you hear us talk about we need to do balances between how clean is clean and do we do more harm by cleaning it even more, like we saw in Exxon Valdez, that will not happen here.
Yeah, Javier Pans with the LA Times. Can you tell us, have you excavated or gotten down to the pipe? What does it look like if you have? And what does that tell you?
We have not excavated the pipe at this point. We are continuing with our prep work and working with PHMSA and the Unified Command on the plan to do that. We won't start that until we have an approved plan by all the agencies.
I just flew over the site and looked like the pipe was exposed. I mean, can you see it, the pipe? Have you dug down to it?
I haven't seen the pipe today, but the area of the release will not be uncovered until we can be assured that that will be a safe operation.
Yes, ma'am.
Is there any indication that the oil has reached Haskell's or Elwood beaches in Goleta or Will?
I'm sorry, can you repeat your question? I didn't hear the whole thing.
Is there any indication the oil has reached the beaches in Goleta near Haskell's or anything like that or Will?
I don't know that I can. So my name is Jordan Stout. I'm with NOAA, National Oceanic and Atmospheric Administration, and I'm a scientific support coordinator. My last name is spelled S-T-O-U-T. I don't have direct information about the shoreline oiling condition, though I did participate in the aerial observation overflight this morning, so I'm aware of what the offshore oil looks like and where that is, and I've been speaking to our trajectory modelers who have been looking at where oil from offshore areas may move, but I don't have information for you for shoreline oiling, but it is available in the command post, and I'm sure the Joint Information Center can provide that for you.
Any update on the slick that was seen yesterday morning during overflight?
You're referring to yesterday's slick that was, yes. So this morning, I was a participant in overflight. Two of the other folks on board, two of the other observers on board were also on the flight yesterday when the black slick was seen. I was not, however. We covered generally the same area. We flew along the shore, and we also went out to try to take a look at that same that area of black oil. We did, as we had seen yesterday, you know, much of the oil near shore that could reasonably be attributed to the spill was very widely scattered, very thin silver, what we call silver sheen, very thin layers of oil. We also did find a larger black and brown area of oil offshore, similar to what was seen yesterday. It was longer than what was seen yesterday, and I think yesterday we reported about 3 miles long. Today it appeared to be more like 10 miles long, but it may have been narrower, so it may be sort of elongating over time. In talking to our oceanographers about the general circulation patterns and what's moving oil, I think earlier in the spill, much of what was pushing the oil in a certain direction was generally wind-driven. Right now, there's a circulation pattern offshore that is tending to move oil generally from east to west, and the winds may push some of, if you have an onshore wind, it may push some of that oil onshore. So with the location of the black oil that we saw yesterday and today, and that circulation pattern moving from east to west, it may very well be that the source of that black oil is from natural seeps off of the Cold Point area. But that's yet to be determined. But that's an operating theory that we're working with.
I understand you guys took samples yesterday, or you're in the process of taking samples. When might those results be in? Of what the source of that seep would be?
We are in the process of getting a plan together to collect samples of that area.
Are there any other questions from no one?
Mr. Hodgson, I think, said that we're going to take as long as it takes. Is it going to be days or weeks or months?
I couldn't hear the question. I'm sorry.
You mentioned you're going to be here as long as it takes, but is that going to be days or weeks or
months? Can you give us some kind of a
I don't have any timeline. It's whatever long it takes. It's obviously going to be quite some time before we get it all cleaned up and go into the project phase. But however long it takes, and we're going to be working with the local, state, and federal entities to ensure that it's back to the way it's supposed to be.
What kind of information did the pig give you that makes you want to look at these 4 areas?
Could you repeat the question, please?
What kind of information did you get from the pig test you ran that makes you want to look at these 4 areas?
So typically, anytime you run an inline inspection tool, you do what's called confirmation digs to determine is the pig giving you the right data in correlation to where the pipe is. So the inline inspection tools are one of the many ways we inspect our tools to make sure they're operating safely. And it's similar to having a maintenance light come on in your car. If you get a red light that comes on, you bring your car into the mechanic to check it out to make sure it doesn't break down. So it's just part of our normal maintenance activities as part of that maintenance prevention program.
Does that mean there's something about these 4 locations that
It just means we're going to do confirmation digs along the line to make sure the integrity of the data coming in matches up to the line that we have there. So we do those confirmation digs to confirm.
what are you looking to confirm?
So when you're running the inline inspection tool down the line, it takes GPS points all the way down the line. So in this case, 11 miles. We make sure the data matches up to a specific location. We go to that specific location, dig it up, check it up against the data, and make sure it confirms, yes, this tool was reading the pipe at this thickness at this particular location.
Thank you. Sir, did you have another question? Or one of you?
Yeah, I did want to follow up. So, is there a timetable for draining the rest of that 11 pipeline, or will it remain full until the break is fixed? What is the long-term plan for 901?
After we've moved the affected section of pipeline, the remaining portion of the line will be completely purged with inert gas. Okay?
I'm with you so far, and then what happens at that point? Then you will be able to re-energize the line?
Well, we have to finish our repair, and then again, we're working with PHMSA on every step of this project. So we'll work with them and we've worked with them from day one on all of our planning, and we'll get into the restart down the road with under their supervision.
Forgive me if this was asked in an earlier briefing, but if the line is able to be returned to use, is there a plan then to have an automatic shutoff installed before it resumes use?
No, there's not. I believe we addressed the yesterday's conference the issue of automatic shutdown valves, and we've sent that out to the press. I don't have that in front of me right now.
We have time for one more question. Yes, sir.
Yes, was there a computerized leak detection system in operation, commonly known as the SCADA system or something like that? And how often is it re-zeroed, and when might have been re-zeroed last before the leak?
A SCADA system sends real-time operational data to our control center. Flows, pressures, things like that.
And is it ever re-zeroed?
It is continual.
What is the tolerance of leak detection?
Thank you, ladies and gentlemen. That's all we have time for. If you have any follow-up questions for the Joint Information Center, we'll have a couple people that stick around after this. Thank you.